From Perth, Australia, and broadcasting around the world, you're listening to The O Show with your host, Oren McCory. The O Show is a no-nonsense podcast bringing you the best advice on training, mindset, and nutrition to supercharge your efforts in the gym, the kitchen, and most importantly, in your head. Don't forget to share this episode on your social media. Now, let's get to it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the O Show with your host, Oren McCory. I am here today with one of Ireland's best trainers, one of the world's best online trainers, and somebody who you might recognize from Instagram because he's quite famous in the community that he's in for doing work as a superhero. So we're going to get into that very soon, but I'd like to welcome Mr. Ben Mudge onto the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
I mean, it's been a while in the making. We were talking beforehand, and you were one of the first people I messaged about getting an episode at the very start when I set this up. But just life's got in the way. You've been busy setting up different parts with your A and B coaching. And we finally got here. I think we're on episode 29 or something on this one. And we've got you on, and I'm delighted, mate. First of all, it's a voice from back home, just up the road in Belfast. So it's good to hear the friendly voice, and you've got quite an interesting story, buddy. So I want to jump straight in. Let's not waste any time. Let's talk about who is Ben Mudge, what's your story, and tell us a bit about the medical condition that you live with day in, day out.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. 29, that's good going as well. So who am I? I am a 30-year-old guy from Belfast, Northern Ireland, obviously. I've been into fitness since, some of my earliest memories are playing with my dad, climbing my dad. My dad's 6'3". I unfortunately didn't get that height. I landed somewhere between him and my mum. My mum's like 5'3", so I landed, pretty in the middle there, 5'8", 5'9". But my earliest memories were just being active and playing with my dad, and we used to do like push-ups at night. And basically I asked him this the other day, actually. I was like, how did I start doing that? How did I start doing like pull-ups off my bunk bed and push-ups and sit-ups? And he says, you saw me doing it. And I was like, nice. Wow, that just shows you the impact that your parents can have on your life in a way that you couldn't possibly fathom. So I've always been active. And then obviously, we'll talk about the elephant in the room with the cystic fibrosis. So cystic fibrosis is, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a genetic illness. It is essentially, to keep it simple, it affects the mucus within the body. So someone who doesn't have cystic fibrosis, the mucus within your body, which is a lot like the oil of a car, it keeps everything running smoothly, and it's involved in a lot of processes. The mucus within someone without cystic fibrosis' body would be a lot like, well, the water in this bottle. Mind blank there. Whereas the mucus within someone's body with cystic fibrosis, it's a lot like replacing that water with wallpaper paste or like PVA glue. So that makes every process in the body much more difficult. It also is a fantastic breeding ground for bacteria, unfortunately. So within the lungs, let's say, for instance, you get a chest infection. That infection will sit in your chest. It'll sit down in the lungs, and then eventually you'll just cough it up and you'll get rid of the mucus. However, whenever someone with cystic fibrosis gets a chest infection, that mucus is a lot different to yours, and it's very difficult to clear it. Okay. And that bacteria will essentially destroy the lung tissue that it sits in, to the point where you'll lose more and more and more of your lung function. Which is unfortunately how a lot of people with CF pass away, because they get chest infection and then they get another one and another one and another one and another one, until the point where their lungs are so damaged that they can't breathe by themselves. And then they require a lung transplant, double lung transplant, which is not a straightforward procedure. And that's the main reason why the life expectancy is around 45, I believe, at the moment. Okay. So yeah, and unfortunately, in the last 2 days, way too young people passed away from CF. One girl and then one guy, and the guy unfortunately left behind his wife and 2 kids.
I've seen that on your story.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things that I'm so I hate using the word fortunate, but I don't like the word lucky either. But I'll use it in this context. I'm fortunate that I've got the health that I've got. Now, I say fortunate with a kind of air quotes simply because I work hard for what I've got, and I don't like to place it on this magical luck thing. Again, I do understand that there's a portion of, good fortune, on the sense that my genetics are the way they are, my parents are who they are, my environment is the way it is. I was born in this country, all those intangibles that I couldn't possibly control no matter how hard I trained and all that crap. But for the most part, I forget that I have it because it doesn't play a huge role in my life, thankfully. But whenever I wake up and that's like the first thing I see, it's it brings it all back to me. And and then my brain starts going along this path of like, okay, well, especially I think it was the girl, she had a relatively normal life, and then she got one chest infection, and then that became a fungal infection, which is nearly impossible to treat with antibiotics. And then that was it. That was just her life, just tapered away.
That's insane.
And I was constantly thinking, is that going to be me? All these doubts in my head start flying through, and it can be extremely overwhelming. It's something I don't really talk about much because, again, I don't like to give CF more time than it requires from me. So yeah, cystic fibrosis in a nutshell sucks, but things could always be worse.
Yeah, man. And like, you're talking about how bad it is versus a normal person. If I get a chest infection versus you, and like, I just remember even like the tail end of prep there, I got like a bad cold that was like a chesty cough, and it took a good week to clear. And I was like, is this ever going to clear? And if that's like the good mucus, if I can call it that, versus what you guys would have, like that must be pretty harsh on the body, because even somebody gets a chest infection with a normal immune system like me, like it still can feel quite like annoying and irritating, versus you guys who have compromised lung function as well as a result. Then like the long-term damage, it must be quite hard to recover from, I imagine.
Yeah, it usually requires intravenous antibiotics. So IV in the arm, 2 weeks in hospital. Again, touch wood, it's been 9 years since I've had any IVs, which is a phenomenal amount of time. And I've only ever had it twice, 3 times kind of. But yeah, you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get 9 vials of, antibiotics pushed through your arm. Then again at 12, and then again at like 6. So it's 3 times a day. These vials that take ages to go through, and then that's if your line doesn't block up, which mine did, and then they have to take it out and put another one back in, and it's called a long line, which is essentially it's a foot long line that goes in through here, and it travels all the way up to about here, so it just gets the IVs quicker into your system. Some people even have a permanent port. So some people with cystic fibrosis, you may be able to see like this, it looks like a lump underneath their skin. That's essentially an easy port into their system. So there'll just be a little button that they attach the IVs into there.
Okay.
They don't have any of that, but as I said, it's it's the hand I've been dealt. There's nothing I can do about it. All I can do is what I can do. I can control the tangibles and the variables that I can control, and that is putting the right foods into my body, getting plenty of sleep, training. I'm just being sensible. So like then obviously getting onto my career path, I left school at 16, didn't want to do anything at school, had no interest in any of the topics, just did not like school, still have recurring nightmares about going to school. To this day, even though it's been half my lifetime ago. And I went on, I was like, right, I want to do something creative. I want to do something that I will enjoy, because again, I don't know whether it was a sense of the fact that cystic fibrosis does give you a different perspective on life. The fact that you're like, okay, life is not going to be this, like tomorrow is not promised. next year isn't promised, 2 months isn't promised,
Yeah.
It kind of gives you that perspective. And I don't know whether that came into that effect, so early on in my life, but I was like, right, I want to be a film director. I want to be involved in films. I love them. It's something I do in my spare time. It's something I still do in my spare time. Like I love, watching movie breakdowns, and I love films in general. So I spent four years studying for that. Got some work in the industry. So I worked on the first season of Game of Thrones. I worked on a couple of small films as well over here. And then it was on working on those that I realized that I needed to change my career path entirely, because I wasn't able to sleep, first and foremost. I couldn't eat when I wanted to.
Yeah.
I couldn't train because the hours that I was working were so unsociable that the gym wasn't open. So I'd be up at like sometimes 4:30 in the morning, wasn't getting back until about 8 or 9 at night.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I could do was go to the gym, and I was just back when I was training in the university gym, so it was definitely not open. So I realized there and then, I was like, I love this career, but I need to change it. And that was hard. That was very, very hard, especially, having spent 4 years of my life, which at that point was a significant chunk in my life because I was still fairly young. Yeah. And it was upon speaking to one of the extras from Game of Thrones, who was a Dothraki warrior. I was talking to him, I was like, what do you do? Like, how are you here during the day? Like, what is your job? You're an old guy. Like, he's probably like 22 at the time. But I was like, what is it you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a personal trainer. And I looked around, and a bunch of them were like, yeah, I'm also a personal trainer, because they're all like pretty big.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck is that? And they're like, oh, we just, help people out in the gym. The most oversimplified explanation of a personal trainer. I was like, if I knew that now, I'd be like, that's not all we do. So yeah, I was just like, you should get it. He was like, you're in decent shape. Again, back then I was just lean. I didn't have much muscle tissue, didn't have much body fat, but I was lean. And that's kind of how I fell into it.
Yeah.
And then, it's the best decision I ever made.
When was that, Ben? When did you start coaching?
So that would have been 2010 or 11. And then I think I started coaching that year. I think 2011, I got my level 2 and level 3. And then I think I got my first job as a fitness instructor. So I didn't technically work as a PT, but I worked as a fitness instructor in Fitness First, back when that actually existed.
Yeah.
Both of those things.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been nearly 10 years in the industry.
Yeah, fair enough. Same as me, mate. I think I was 2010, so I was just slightly ahead of you right after uni. Just sort of fell into it. Somebody just said to me, like, do you want to go do a course at Belfast Met? And I was like, not really. I'm doing a fitness instructor job. I get paid to write people a program and watch them train, like, from behind a desk here. And I just went along to sort of help him out with it. Like, we'll do the drive up, split the drive in, and then the rest is history, right? You sort of just get a bug for it when you actually start coaching people, and everything moves from there.
Yeah.
So tell me this: see the love of the film. Is that how did the whole I'm gonna promote? Obviously, you look a lot like Thor, and recently as well, Captain America. But how did you fall into the whole Thor thing?
Thursday thing. So it's kind of a bunch of things. So I grew my hair long because I hated having short hair. Simple as that. I never knew what to do with it. Seems like everybody knew how to style their hair, and I was just like, I just wake up, as you can see, I just wake up in the morning and just be like, yeah, that'll do. Long hair is like, my hair can either be down or it can be tied up. That's it. That's the two options. So I started growing my hair, and then obviously the Thor. Before that, people had been saying like, oh, you look a bit like that guy Chris Hemsworth, and I was like, sweet, superhero. That's awesome. That's not the worst comparison to have. So then obviously when I started growing my hair, it obviously started coming more and more. And it was actually the whole Thursday thing, which is how the kind of posts became viral. I was actually looking up the etymology of the words of the week. I'm such a nerd when it comes to stuff like that. I just think in such a weird way. Like I'll randomly be talking to someone like, where the hell do we use that word? Where did that word come from? Like,
yeah.
And I thought, where did we get the words of the week from? Like, where do they derive from? And it turns out they're all from Norse. Like, they all come from Norse mythology. So Wednesday is Woden's Day, which is Odin's Day. And Thursday is Thor's Day. So there's literally just that one letter changed. And I thought that's kind of a cool fact. I had at the time, I had like a little foam Mjolnir, which I've given that to my nephew, but I put up a photo, had Mjolnir in my hand, said, happy Thor's Day. Thor's Day actually means, Thursday, but this is where we got the word from.
Yeah.
And then I think that post got like a bunch of likes, and then a bunch of people being like, oh, he looks like Thor, blah, blah, blah. And then someone, I think, again, I'm not 100% accurate in this one, but I think someone on Facebook said, my kid now thinks Thor has cystic fibrosis like him.
Wow.
That's made taking his treatments and stuff, or something along those lines. Again, I cannot be 100% accurate. It is such a blur, but then I thought, there's something to this. I can, first of all, have fun, dress up as a superhero. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I can help people like massively.
Yeah.
And I can help spread the word for cystic fibrosis. And again, without, like, I'm not going to lie about this. It helps me spread my brand as well.
Yeah.
So why would I not do it? So I can build my brand. I can help people with cystic fibrosis. I can dress up as a superhero.
All pretty cool.
Where's the flaw there? So I started doing that, and I started taking photos of me taking my nebulizers, basically doing all the stuff I didn't want to do when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And my mindset was, okay, if I can convince these kids that what they're doing makes them special in a good way, and make them feel like they've got this connection to a superhero, basically all the things I wanted when I was a kid, that's where it all came from. And then obviously just the fact that it was cool and I got to dress up as Thor.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man, to be fair. It was it's good to see. So, and that's pretty powerful when you can impact a kid's life like that and actually make them want to take their meds.
It's I still do get messages from people, saying like, oh, my kid, takes their nebulizers. Or the reason why I kind of pulled back on it a little bit is because people were then referring to me as Thor. Like, they wouldn't call me Ben, they would just call me Thor. And I was like, it's not the worst nickname in the world, but I was like, do people know me as Thor, or do they know me as Ben? Because Thor's already got a pretty big, following in terms of Marvel.
Yeah.
And they're not paying me or anything. So, I'd rather push my own brand before this. So it was cool whenever I started getting messages of people saying like, oh, my kid, if they're ever acting up or they ever don't want to take their tablets, which I'm literally just looking at right here. There's my tablets there. I just say, they just say, oh, what would Ben do? Or like, Ben takes all his nebulizers, or Ben takes all his tablets. And I was like, that is incredible. I've had one of the moments that stands out the most in my mind is I was in London. Obviously this was not this year. And I was waiting in an airport, and there was this guy, he was about 45, and he was standing behind me about 2 or 3 people back. And I just looked back, I think, and he was looking at me like, and I was like, oh, he's maybe looking at someone else. Went through security and kept kind of looking at me, and I was just like, what's this guy doing? And then we went through. I was in that weird, stressful rush of trying to put everything back in your bag after you've taken it all. And he came over to me, and he was like, genuinely, like, you could hear him, his voice was trembling. This is like a 45-year-old man. He's like, you're Ben Mudge, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. And he's just like, okay, my wife would kill me. I said, I've never done this. I would never, ever do this to anyone else. But he says, my wife would kill me if I didn't ask for this. He said, could I get a photo with you? And I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. He says, my son has cystic fibrosis. And he says, you are like a household hero in our house. Like, if he doesn't want to do this, we say, what would Ben do? Or they'll show him a picture of me taking my nebulizers, taking my tablets. And that blew my mind. Yeah. The fact that someone from a different country, never mind the country thing, just the fact that I've had that an impact on someone's life who I could have never met ever.
Yeah.
That's the effect that I've had on their family, and potentially going to help them, grow up hopefully healthier than they would if they hadn't seen me. So that's it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man, that's super powerful. Like, to have someone, a stranger like that, say, like, as if you're like an actor or something in the airport, like, asking for a selfie. So it's powerful, man. And it's good to see that, the word is spreading. And like you say, it's not just because people know you as Thor taking his meds. It's what would Ben do? You know,
Yeah.
that's amazing, bro. That's amazing. So obviously you pulled back from that a bit in terms of you're not posting as often. Tell me this, so before we get into this, whenever Thor actually cut his hair for Ragnarok, were you like, oh, thank God I can finally cut my hair again?
So I'll tell you the exact timeline of that. So I started growing my hair, and then the poster for Thor Ragnarok came out, and he had cut his hair off, and I was like, "Are you joking me?"
Oh
Like
no.
he's just cut it off, and I was like, "Well, I'm just going to push through," because like again, everyone knows Thor is kind of having long blonde hair. That's just like it's the way Marvel did it. In actual Norse mythology, he's got long ginger hair and ginger beard.
Right.
But then the Marvel guys came through and were like, let's make him blonde.
Right.
But the haircut, I was just like, seriously, come on. Apparently it's because he didn't like wearing a wig.
Okay.
And he didn't like having the long hair for like combat and stuff. And I now understand this completely. It gets everywhere. I was doing a Metcon once, and the hairband that I had in broke, and I think I was doing ski erg and burpees, and every time I dropped down, my hair would go in my mouth and I would inhale it.
Yeah.
And I was
Oh
like,
man.
So I completely understand that, like, having long hair is very impractical if you're having to fight or be active in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
Totally.
So it wasn't where you'd already had the hair long and then you got to cut it. It was like the opposite. It was like you literally started to get really long, and then he cuts all his off. And obviously yours is real. His was wearing a wig, obviously. So
Yep. And then Endgame came out, and he got really fat and got the
yeah.
Beard. And I remember sitting in the cinema when that I went to see the premiere. I was asked to come and see it. Like that was a task.
Yeah.
But they asked me to come down to the store, and as soon as the scene of him coming on when he's fat, everybody who was with me just kind of leaned forward and went, "You gonna do that one?" And I was like, I'm good. I'm just gonna stay lean. Thanks. I'm not gonna
fair enough.
go full like hobo beard and dreadlocks. But it's a pretty cool character to be attached to. And then obviously the Captain America thing is a big one as well. I would say I get compared to him quite a lot, but I would actually say he's kind of one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Because again, when you look at the story of Captain America, the fact that he was this skinny kid who, was told he couldn't do this and told he couldn't do that, that is essentially my life as well. I was always super skinny. I never got picked for any, sports teams. I was always the small. Yeah, I was never fat or anything, but I was just very, very lean.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I remember so clearly trying to get to 6 stone in first and second year.
Wow.
Like, that's how small I was. And people don't believe me because they just take me for who I am right now. And I'm like, yeah, but you haven't seen who I was and where I've come from. So the thing is that I really appreciate from the Captain America thing is the fact that he says to him, when he gets the super soldier, or the day before he gets the super soldier serum, he's like, it's not, a strong man with strength. He's had it all his life. He doesn't appreciate it. Whereas if you give a weak man strength, he'll appreciate it, or power, and that's so true, because there's not one day that I don't appreciate what I've got, because I'm still that skinny kid, the kid who got looked over and, was told I couldn't do this and that and this. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go out and prove you wrong. I was told I couldn't put on weight. I was told I could never run as fast as anyone else or play sports as well as anyone else. And, it's kind of, it's the nice kind of parallel to my story of the Captain America thing. So getting compared to him is kind of it's a bit of an honor for me, even though Northern Irish. You know what I mean?
The Northern Irish Thor and the Northern Irish Captain America, right?
Yeah. Captain Northern Ireland just doesn't sound good, does it?
Nah, I don't think that would have sold as many copies of the comic book, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing, mate, that I seen, I was going through your story over the past 24 hours just to catch up on everything as well. And you put up, I think it was yesterday, saying about, obviously I see you training every day on your story, but this one hit me because you said something like, if I waited for motivation, I wouldn't do 95% of my workouts, but yet I'm turning up every day. And the reason why it clicked in my head as well is because I put out a video recently about the difference between motivation and dedication. And it's a quote that I didn't tag you in because I remembered afterwards, but I heard off you on another podcast, and it was about how motivation is like the wind hitting the sails of a sailboat. Whenever it's the oars of the boat that are doing the hard work most of the way. So let's talk about that. Like, that quote alone is pretty bang on, mate. As soon as I heard it, I was like, whoa, I'm using that one somewhere down the line.
Like, it was one of those ones that I was sitting with my dad and I was talking to him about it, and I literally went silent, went, hold on, and just like, it just came to me, and I was like, that's actually, that works quite well. Yeah, like I've started kind of, the question I get the most by far is, how are you motivated? What motivates you? And I'm starting to just become sick of that word, to be honest. Like, motivation. I was like, so many people blame the reason why they're not where they're at because they're not motivated to do it. And I was like, well, motivation is fleeting. Like, it pops its head up for 5 minutes, and if you're not right there in the spot you need to be in, it's gone.
Yeah,
that's the best way of it. And even then, it doesn't pop up every day. But as I said, like, most of my sessions, 95% of my sessions in my life, I've not been motivated to do them. I just do them because I really don't like the other option of not doing them. I don't like
necessity, the fact
that, right? 100%, especially for me. You know, I've seen the reality of cystic fibrosis for other people. You know, people younger than me, unfortunately, and in my opinion, like, you've always got two options. You either take the hard path or the easy path, and the easy path is the one that doesn't get you anywhere at all. It's the make bad decisions in terms of what you eat most of the time. It's, you know, not being active. It's, you know, sleeping too long or too little, most of the time too little. It's, you know, going down the anabolic route. It's all the things that you really should be. It's the shortcut route. But what I've done is essentially just block that path off. Like, I visualize everything. So I see two doors, you know, there's red brick around them, red door, and I've just bricked off the option of not getting, can we swear?
Yeah,
not getting shit done.
Yeah.
Like, that's essentially what I've done. I've just been like, nah, that's not an option. Brick that shit off. Like, I do not want to even have that as an option in my radar.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that becomes an option, I start making bad decisions, and those bad decisions then end up, you know, me in a position that I don't want to be in. Yeah. And frankly, one that scares me. That's the honest truth. Like, cystic fibrosis is absolutely terrifying. And that's the thing that I have no problem saying, because, you know, I'm human. I don't pretend to be anything other than that, other than when I'm pretending to be a Norse god. The accent, I'm pointing to the accent, and Mjolnir sitting beside me here. But it terrifies me. You know, the idea of, you know, having this illness is a terrifying prospect. So yeah, it's that's my dad just arrived randomly. I just saw him pull up there. He's been trying to call me the entire time. But yeah, it's the motivation thing. Just, again, I think a lot of people just use it as an easy excuse. Oh, I wasn't motivated to do it. Well, I didn't want to do it. It's like, it doesn't, like, just grow up. Like, if you want something that much, you're not always going to want to do what you need to do to get it. And if it's not challenging, it's not going to change you.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, as I said, most of your workouts, and I think the one thing that I try to do is try and break down this, you know, separation between the influencers, which I suppose I am one, and people in real life. Because I think once people see a certain amount of followers on someone's profile, they suddenly just detach them from humanity. Like, I guarantee if you go on Instagram and you find a guy or a girl and you click on their profile and it says 4.3 million followers, you immediately just go, they don't. If I message them, they're never going to message me back. Or if I comment on the thing, they're never going to see it. Whereas if you find someone who has 1,000 followers, 4,000 followers, you know, not that that's a bad thing, but like, that amount, they suddenly are more realistic to you, and they become like an actual person. So what I'm trying to do is make sure, regardless of the number that's on my profile, which I honestly, it's cool. It's an honor to have that, but I don't really see it as it doesn't justify any actions I have. It doesn't, you know, allow me to do anything differently. It doesn't make me act any differently, nothing when I'm taking the piss, you know. Oh, I'm an influencer, mate. You know who I am. Like, but again, that's only with my mates. But I'm trying to make sure that there's no discrepancy between who I am in real life and who I am on social media. So it's really important for me to show people the reality of training, eating, just my mindset in general. Because I think it helps a lot of people. And a lot of my clients who are working with me now have said that that really helped them, you know, decide that, okay, yeah, this is the coach I need to help me, because I was just honest about things. Like I if I'm struggling to train, I don't want to train, I'll say that. I don't be like, oh, I smashed this session and all those Americanisms, you know, this session just got its head torn off. And I mean, most sessions you just kind of, as I say to one of my clients, you're just checking boxes. Sometimes you're going to flip and tear the page up with how awesome it was. Yeah. Sometimes it's just going to be a tick, done, got that task completed.
Yeah, fair man.
Yeah.
And talking about that, so obviously you've got this great coaching business. It's AMB, which stands for the Athletic Muscle Blueprint. How does having CF affect that? Does it affect you in any way in terms of workload? Obviously, it's not really affecting you as much in the gym in terms of you're fit, you're lean, you're strong, you've got a good physique. Does it affect anything in terms of like flare-ups health-wise, or are they all pretty much at a minimum where you can just live life normally and be a good coach and train and do everything?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I prioritize myself first and foremost, which I think a lot of people don't. And that's something I try to encourage my clients to do, because if you prioritize yourself first, you're giving the best version of yourself to the world. Simple as that. There's so many other analogies you can use for that, but that's the one I like to use, because by not putting yourself first, you are giving a half-assed version of yourself to everyone else, and that affects everybody else around you. I've never wanted to be someone who people pity. I never want to be a pity parade, you know, people being like, oh, you know, I don't want to hang around with Ben or speak to Ben because he's just miserable. Like, all he talks about is cystic fibrosis, how sick he is. I never want to be that guy. In order for me to not be that guy and to have a normal life, whatever that is, I need to do certain things, which is get plenty of sleep, eat good foods most of the time. That's, again, I'm not saying I eat perfectly all the time, because perfect doesn't exist. Get that out of your wheelhouse whenever you come to nutrition or training. Do not aim for perfect, because you will fail every single time. For the most part, my training is pretty good, and I try to not stress about things I have zero control over. Again, am I perfect at all those things? Hell no. But I show up. I'm consistent with them. You know, even if I'm consistently average will get you to a pretty good spot, which is pretty much where I consider myself. I'm consistently average. I wouldn't say I'm super, super high up. I wouldn't say I'm super low down. I'm kind of just like, percentage wise, I'm probably like, I was going to say 65, which is like a pretty, 65 is a way that kids are taught to say cystic fibrosis, 65 roses.
Okay, yeah.
That's just a random, but that percentage came to my head. I'm like slightly above it, but I think I cruise at about 65% all the time, which is like realistically all you need. So
let's talk about this as well in terms of food. What do you enjoy eating that's maybe not ideal for CF, and what, like, so Saturday night comes, the missus wants a bit of food. What would Ben normally reach? What does Thor reach for?
I love cereal.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Breakfast cereal, super easy, like no inconvenience whatsoever. Not much cleaning up. I can go through an entire box of anything you put down in front of me. I will go through the entire box. That would definitely be one of my vices. And then in terms of like not the best foods in the world for me, you know, but it's good for my mind, so it's good for me. And then probably just sweets like Haribo. I'm such a sweet tooth. It's unreal.
Yeah. Like, so it's more like sugary stuff rather than like, say, a pizza or ice cream that's got the fats in as well.
Oh, I mean, I would eat a pizza. I mean, nearly every Tuesday, Janice and I get a pizza. I'll have wings and cookies, and I'll just plow through that. Yeah. But in terms of like my favorite food, it without a doubt sushi.
Nice.
Sushi is just, I could just eat that and I could just go all day.
Yeah. So what would your sushi order be then? What hits the spot for you?
As much sashimi as possible. Salmon,
Nice.
sashimi salmon is just like, oh, I actually leave it to the very end because it's just, I don't know, it's just like the best. Sounds so weird. So it's the best mouth feeling ever. That sounds so weird. But yeah, sashimi salmon is just the best for me.
And can you use chopsticks or? Yeah, you got it. You got it nailed.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to go to South Korea,
Right,
and
okay.
I was like, I use chopsticks quite a bit, but they put me in like the deep level. They have like metal chopsticks.
Oh shit!
Which, I mean, that's next level. That like I was struggling. There's a video of me up online somewhere eating with this YouTuber who we were hanging out with, and we go and eat these peace noodles. They're called peace noodles, which is basically the noodles that they share in times of peace in Korea. And we had just arrived after Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea, came to visit South Korea for the first time, and that's what they had. They had these cool. So we had it, and in the clip you can see me like I am concentrating, like the girl's talking, and then my mate's on the other side of her, and I'm just sitting there like trying to get one flipping noodle on this, and I do get one noodle. I'm like, I win.
I got it.
People in the shop were like, "Would you like a knife and fork?" And I was like, "Please, these metal ones are an absolute nightmare. Wooden I can handle, the metal ones are slippery.
Because it must make them slippy as hell, right?
100%, yeah. And it's pretty humid there, so my hands are sweating. I was just like,
and
then the pressure being on camera, I was just like, this is the worst. I look like such an idiot, but yeah. So yeah, you can find that video somewhere if you Google that.
Nice. So yeah, everyone's going to be out on Google now, Googling Ben Mudge chopsticks.
Eating noodles in South Korea.
What about hobbies then? Because we talked about obviously the disease, your background, the coaching. Like I see the American football helmet behind you, so that's obviously a big hobby. But what do you like to do and like lifestyle outside of normal fitness, like outside of the pull-ups and push-ups and bench press? What do you like to do?
I mean, American football is like the only sport that I enjoy. Not a soccer fan, not a rugby fan. I say soccer. I hated it. I always have. I just cannot stand it. And rugby, again, I played that, tried to play that for years in school. Again, I have a bit of a bad taste of that because I never got fit in playing until I then left school and put on some weight. But football is like the athleticism that those guys have is just phenomenal to me. The fact that these guys are the top 1% of people who play football and they're playing against those other 1% people, and the fact that some of those players can make those other players look like kids. Like there's a guy called Saquon Barkley who unfortunately just tore his ACL, but dude, you need to check him out just for the athleticism. Really? This guy is a beast. Like he manhandles people in the field. Like it's that combination of sports and just pure appreciation for what the human body is capable of doing, and the genetic freaks out there. That's why I find it so fascinating. The precision, the intelligence that's required. It just fascinates me. But other than that, I'm kind of weird. Like I like a bunch of different things. One thing I always go back to, and this is something I used to be so embarrassed about, but I collected Warhammer from when I was like 10, maybe. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that I got into because I absolutely love Lord of the Rings. And I was like, oh, there's these little figures you can paint, and you can get the figures that you see in the films. And it's taught me such a good lesson, though, because when I first got those, my painting looked like I was painting with my fist. Like they were just awful. But it showed me that if you just keep doing something over and over and over and over again, you can get really good at something. Yeah. So whilst my painting isn't phenomenal, and again, I rarely do it, but when I do get to do it, it's so peaceful because I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not thinking about anything other than the task at hand. So it's so therapeutic for me. It's like people who do the coloring books. Coloring books. It's like that for me, but I'm painting some like dude who's like 9 foot tall, supposedly, and jacked up in some stupid armor with a sword and a gun. Like it's so cool. Like to me, it's just one of those things that, again, I used to be embarrassed about stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. If someone doesn't like me because of that, then jog on, like simple as that. But other than that, football, bit of that. Like to play games with my mates. Again, I see video gaming is just an easy way to, especially now, to keep in contact with people who, are halfway across the world. One of my best friends lives in Canada. Another one, not that far, lives in England. But it's just a nice way of us all catching up and doing something where it's not just like calling each other and being awkward on the phone for an hour.
Nice. Yeah, because you get a good chat while you're playing the game, right?
Yeah, you've got something to aim towards, but you can also catch up and see what everyone's doing. But
yeah, 100%. And then what about in terms of, you're obviously a big film geek, so
yeah,
if we're going to talk about, let's say top 3 or top 5, I don't want to just make you pick one because that can be quite hard, but like, say if I've never watched, I'm not big in the movies. I'm pretty big in the movies and TV and everything. But if you had to say these 5 movies are the 5 like watch before you die, like what would you pick?
So does the Lord of the Rings trilogy count as one?
I'll let that count as one. Anything with a trilogy or any like series counts as one. Then how about that?
Okay, so yeah, Lord of the Rings trilogy. It has to be the extended edition though, because if it's not, then you can, as I said, you can jog on. I would say again, this is a trilogy, but they're not really. Like the Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead. I watched World's End the other day, World's End, but Hot Fuzz is one of those films I can just watch. Like I can rarely watch a film over and over again, but Hot Fuzz is one of those ones I just continually come back to. God, what else? I'm trying to think of like stylistic films that are just. I mean, to be honest, Endgame. Yeah. Like Avengers Endgame, just the sheer fact that is what it is. Like the complexity behind that and some of the cinematography like is stunning. Like whenever you look at there's that scene of Captain America standing by himself against the entire army of Thanos and all of them. Like that shot is, you could just pause it and I would have that as a photo. I would hang that up on the wall. It is absolutely stunning. But a lot of people kind of don't give superhero films credit because they're like popcorn, that type of thing. But I think that's a phenomenal film.
I agree.
The fact that it culminated, everything pulled together. I just think the story writing of Marvel's, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else. I think the Joker was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a random one. If you're a Batman fan, I don't know if you're a Batman fan.
Yeah.
One of the best Batman films is not live action; it's an animated one.
Okay, yeah.
And it comes in 2 parts. It's The Dark Knight Rises and Dark Knight Rises 2 or Dark Knight Returns. I can't remember the name exactly, but there's basically 2 parts to it. Mm-hmm. And it's animated, so it's a cartoon, but it's not for kids at all.
Really? Like, okay,
some of the best lines. It's got some of the best story. It's basically a retired Batman come back out of retirement to try and stabilize Gotham. It's incredible. Anyone who's seen it will know exactly what I'm talking about. Joker's in that as well. It's pretty dark, but it's a very good film as well. Trying to think if there's anything in here that I could.
Let's say one more. I think it's hard when somebody puts you on the spot like this, right?
It is, yeah.
Tell you what, that's 4 good ones, so let's go with that. We'll not wreck the brain too much.
Pumping Iron.
Okay,
just to go for just a simple. If I'm ever feeling a bit, again, it's just a fascinating documentary.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones, but those are the ones that I can think of under pressure.
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't know what Pumping Iron is, it's a story of Arnie preparing for Mr. Olympia. And it's on Australian Netflix. I presume it's on Netflix over there. Imagine it's probably one of those worldwide sort of ones anyway. So that's one that people should probably check out. The one I'm probably going to check out in my spare time is the Batman one. I don't think I can persuade my missus to watch it with me, but I'll put that out of my own time.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'll link it after.
Nice, man. Nice. And then what about, are you a big TV guy as well, or just films?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Depends on what it is. I like watching series like The Boys. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
No, I keep seeing it on buses going past though. I think it's on Amazon Prime over here.
Amazon Prime, yeah. It is probably one of the best superhero tongue-in-cheek type. Basically, the concept of it is that if superheroes existed, they would be owned by corporate businesses.
Right.
So everything they do would be controlled by this corporate, that they would like, have them scripted to go out and save people. They would have movie deals. They're just commodities.
Yeah.
But then you find out the superheroes are just like normal people, and they're not very nice. That's the best way of putting it. But honestly, it is so gory.
Yeah.
Like probably one of the most gory TV shows I've ever seen. There's probably every other episode you'd be like, you'll be watching something and you'll be like, oh
Really?
no,
Wow,
no,
okay.
that shouldn't happen. Like I'm talking like,
yeah,
people getting their heads pulled off, like pulled in half. Like it's pretty messed up. This is, I just want to talk about this. This is the thing that I am so passionate about, the fact that my life does not revolve around fitness.
Yeah.
Like, take this conversation, for example. Yeah, it's a very, very, very important part of my life, much like my cystic fibrosis, but it's not the be all end all. And that's what I try and teach my clients, that yes, there's times when you need to prioritize things, but realistically, fitness is very, very rarely going to be someone's number one priority. The only people whose priority is fitness and building muscle are professional bodybuilders.
Yeah.
So, don't try not to stress out about things. If it fits into your lifestyle, again, a good program should always fit into your lifestyle. It shouldn't just be like dropped in amongst everything.
Yeah.
But this conversation is just, it reminded me of it because, we're talking about films and TV shows and Lord of the Rings and Warhammer and all that stuff. Like, there's more to most fitness, hopefully most fitness professionals than just fitness. So
yeah, 100%. And that's the thing as well. People need to remember that we're human too, right? We've got the same hobbies. We like the same things as them. We get the same cravings. We were just talking about Domino's and sushi and all sorts, right? I eat chocolate every night. Let's just throw it out there. I eat ice cream every weekend or pizza every weekend. Like, we're all human, and it's just like, we are just like the people who look up to us as either client coach relationship, or whether somebody with more followers like yourself who has something behind them, like, the medical thing that people look up to as an inspiration. Like, we're just normal people at the end of the day. Like you said, like, you're not Thor, you're Ben. So
yeah, exactly. It's why I always struggle whenever people say to me at the start of these type of things, like, who are you? And I'm like, just Ben.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know whether it's a Northern Irish thing that we just don't hype ourselves up.
Maybe.
I think it is. Like, I think it really is kind of we're just quite humble bunch of people, which is, it's good, but it got in my way a little bit with my career, which I kind of got over that recently. But in the last year or two, like, it was kind of stopping me from growing. Yeah. Which, obviously you have to address that and then be like, right, okay, time to set that aside for a little bit and push forward. Yeah. It's not a bad trait though.
And then talking about your coaching and that, so somebody's just listened to, I think we've been on it for about maybe 50 minutes so far. If anyone likes your personality, they're watching on YouTube, they like the look of you, they see how chilled you are, laid back, they wanted to follow you, how do they find out more about you and your coaching and your Instagram and everything else? And do you have room to take on clients at the minute?
So I do not have room for clients at the moment, but I'm taking applications for 2021 at the moment. Not at the moment. We're going to open those up soon. But so find me at Ben Mudge _. I cannot get Ben Mudge as a handle on Instagram. Some guy's been holding on to it, and he's not posted anything for ages. But yeah, that's the best way of getting. I'm not a huge Instagrammer. Like, I don't post things for the sake of posting things. I'll post things if I feel like they're interesting or people might get a laugh out of them, or it'd be informative. But I'm not going to be one of those guys who posts every single day. I post when I want to. I don't feel the pressure of having to post, and a lot of people do. So yeah, Athletic Muscle Blueprints, my 12-week program, kind of gets you set up for. It's designed to kind of get you ready for the rest of your life, essentially. And I take a lot of pride in that. The fact that the people who have graduated through it have been continuing to progress even after the program's finished, which is a huge thing for me personally.
Nice, man. Nice. And so that's an intake based thing where you've got set times you take people on for a 12-week period, and then they can either finish after that or they can continue into regular coaching, right?
Exactly. It's such a nice system as well, because I get to know these people very intimately. We do weekly team meetings. I'm mostly checking in with them pretty much every day. It's just something I really, really enjoy. Taking everybody day one and having them all work together as a team. Because that's I call it the A and B team. That's kind of something that the first group came up with, but that's what it feels like. It's no longer like you're this as a coach. Like whenever you've got a group of people who are aiming towards like a photo shoot, for example, in your case, there's this sense of camaraderie in that 100%. Group. It's hard to break. Like it's a very cool thing to have. So it suddenly makes this journey, which is quite a selfish one, if we're honest about it, like, in a good way and a bad way, it kind of gives you a bit of company along the way on that. So it's it's something I thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah, nice, man. Nice. And I'm sure if anyone's interested and they want to get in for 2021's round of the AMB, they'll get in touch and they'll get amazing results. And like, you're a chilled out guy, you're a great coach, and you can tell it's going to be a good thing. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
I encourage everyone just to go follow Ben anyway, just so you can see the old Thor shots and everything else. And you put up a funny one the other day, actually, mate, where you're looking at the camera really like seductively with your long hair, and you flick the hammer in the air and you miss it when you go to catch. I enjoyed that, actually.
Hit me in the nuts. Yeah. That was in Florida. I was just after I'd done. It was about 2 or 3 days after I'd just done the paddleboarding. So I paddleboarded from Bahamas to Florida. And that photo shoot was fun. I was like, literally the girl who's filming it, Talia, she's super talented. I was like, so what do you want me to do? And she's like, look seductive. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. And I was like, can I wear my glasses, please? And she was like, because I'm just gonna cringe so hard here. But as she was like zooming in, like I was just like throwing the hammer, and obviously I was trying to not look at it. Yeah. But I did it like 6 times before she started filming. And then as soon as she started filming, I was like, all right, this, be sexy, Ben. Flicked it up, missed it completely, hit me in the nut, and then it fell off the deck.
Oh man.
Like drop, and I had to run around, and it was so
nightmare. I think everyone should just go and follow you just so they can watch that one clip and then know exactly what we're talking about. I need to upgrade my video skills so I can actually show these clips while we're talking live, but I'm not at that level yet. I just like recording Zoom, and that'll do, right?
You have to hold your phone up to the screen.
Go old school, mate. Old school. Mm-hmm. So, mate, this has been awesome. It's been about an hour or so now. So there's lots of people can take out of this. I think it's a massive one. I'm gonna title this like being a real life superhero, mate, because aside from the whole Thor thing, like your commitment and dedication to your fitness, your health, your clients, everything and in between, like it's massive and it's inspiring for people. So I think this is going to be a really, really well received one. It'll be up. Normally I do Fridays. It's now 6 p.m. on Thursday, so I might not get it up in time, including YouTube, but I'm going to do my best to get up by tomorrow morning. And if not, it'll be up over the weekend. So I'll tag in everything, obviously, when it comes out. And guys, if you enjoyed this, please screenshot this, tag us, especially if you're following and it's from like the cystic fibrosis community, because like what Ben's doing is massive. And if you can even screenshot this and share it on your story, and one of your friends has a kid with cystic fibrosis, or they've got a family member with it, and it gets a message out there, and then down the line, like it helps that person with cystic fibrosis take their meds. Like, to me, that's massive. It's not just about exposure for the podcast. It's like, let's share this message. Let's give everyone with cystic fibrosis a real role model to follow. So if you can share this, let people know. If you know anyone who's got it, please get them to follow Ben. Even if you don't share the podcast, just get them to follow Ben, because he is putting good stuff up on there about the mortality and the inspiration on it as well. So I encourage everyone to follow Ben on this, regardless of whether they got cystic fibrosis. But please share this if you get a chance, guys. And thanks for coming on, big guy. I really appreciate it. And that's about an hour of your time now, so I'll not hold you up any longer. So thank you guys for tuning in, and thanks, Ben, for coming on. This has been, I think it's episode 29 of the O Show, and it's been with Mr. Ben Mudge, real life superhero.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, mate.
Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the O Show with your host, Oren McCory. If you liked this episode, then please subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening and share this on your social media. We'll see you on the next episode for more no-nonsense advice to help you supercharge your efforts in the gym, in the kitchen, and most importantly, in your head. See you then.